sometimes if I find myself kind of critiquing another woman in my brain or focusing on her negative qualities, if I dig a little deeper, I'm jealous. We try to rationalize our dislike of another woman by making it seem like it's justified. And a lot of the time, it's not. Okay, hi, I'm so excited. Let me show you something really fast. I am gonna write little quotes on index cards, and I just went to Walgreens and I'm gonna color them, and I'm actually like so excited. It's like back to school time as I film this, and I've graduated, so I'm not gonna ever have that back to school experience again. Not that I was buying like crayons and coloring stuff for college or high school, but I am really excited to feel like I'm kind of back to school vibes, and I hope that coloring and all that like awakens something in my inner child. So I'm excited. Today I want to talk about an experience I had last night that kind of speaks to a larger issue that I struggle with and that I think a lot of people probably struggle with. So I like got all cute, went out last night, and I had such a fun time. Then I come back and go on Instagram, and this girl that I constantly compare myself to and that I think she's so much prettier and cooler than me, she posted, and I was like, God! And it made me, it put me in like a little bit of a bad mood. That's like embarrassing to say, because why are you giving someone that much power? But anyone who struggled with like feeling insecure, especially insecure about like how they look, knows that like anytime you get a reminder of the way you feel like you don't measure up, it's like gutting. And it sounds so silly to say, like it's really just not that serious, but it kind of speaks to a larger question, and that is, do you hate her or are you jealous? Because I kind of realized this I don't even know how long ago, but a long while ago, that sometimes when I find myself randomly like disliking someone and being kind of critical of them in my head, this is so like vulnerable to say because I feel like it makes me look like a bad person, but like if I find myself kind of, you know, focusing on someone's negative qualities, and obviously I would never say any of these things out loud because like I'm not a gossip, I don't believe in shit talking people, I don't think it's productive or does anything, and like if you're coming to a conversation and all you have is like shit to say about other people, like people who gossip and people who talk about other people and like talk smack are the most boring people in the world, because like why do you not have anything to talk about other than other people's shit? Anyway, but I sometimes will like think things in my brain that I would never say out loud, which as I say that I'm like, okay, duh, that's like being a human. Sometimes if I find myself kind of critiquing another woman in my brain or focusing on her negative qualities, if I dig a little deeper, I'm jealous. I realize that part of me envies this person, and so I would try to like reassure myself by like, they're not that great, by like focusing on the negative. I feel like this is especially true for me with like how I look or romance, and for me, I'm very content with the type of person I am. I would say the thing I struggle with the most is appearance stuff and how I look and body image. But an example of this would be like, okay, say you're dating someone and they break up with you and then you see them with their new girl or something. Like, I think it's almost human instinct to compare yourself to that other girl, you know what I mean? And you're thinking like, what does she have that I don't? Or you're jealous of her in some way, and sometimes that can come out as like, you know, maybe you're trying to reassure your friend like, oh, she's not that pretty, or like, yeah, but I heard this about her, or something like that. We try to rationalize our dislike of another woman by making it seem like it's justified. And a lot of the time, it's not. Like, it totally makes sense to be jealous of someone sometimes. Like, maybe someone gets something you applied for, and so you feel really bad about yourself, and you're like, she's not that talented. And I think it's so toxic. Like, I think jealousy is so toxic, but it's also inevitable because we are kind of like primed to compare ourselves, especially as women, to other women. But I really am trying to break this cycle in myself, and it doesn't happen that often, but last night was kind of a reminder of like, oh, it's still possible for me to get, not triggered in like a serious way, but for my insecurity to get triggered enough for it to put me in like a mood. Like, I was like, Like, I had like this amazing night out and had so much fun, and like I felt so cute. And the fact that I was able to be like rocked at all by someone else just posting on Instagram, I was like, okay girl, like we have some work to do, because like that is not normal and it's not healthy. But I say it because I think a lot of us have probably gone through something like this. Like, we see stuff on social media all the time that is so curated, and like people are choosing their most beautiful photos. Like, I don't think anyone looks at my Instagram and compares themselves to me, but like I would be shocked. But like, we see stuff, like people post the most beautiful photos of themselves, you know, like people might post stuff that's been edited or filtered in some way. Some people might even Photoshop their body. And then for like celebrities posting, they have like professional makeup artists, professional lighting, professional photographer. Like, they are kind of primed to look their most attractive ever. And then you see that, and sometimes you perceive that as like, oh, this person looks like this all the time, and this is realistic, and there's something wrong with me because I don't look like that. And so I think it kind of, with jealousy and comparison, it's so difficult to navigate, and I feel like it's also difficult to talk about, because it almost makes you, like, for me, I wish I could be the type of person that's like, I don't compare myself to others. Sorry. like I would feel so kind of high and mighty if this was something that didn't affect me, but it does, and that's embarrassing, but it's also true. And I think it's important to speak on it, because I think a lot more of us deal with this than we talk about. Not the social media being unrealistic part of it, because like, duh, everyone is talking about that all the time, but the jealousy aspect, because it's like so vulnerable to be jealous. And when you're jealous, if you admit that you're jealous, you're admitting that there's some faults and deficiencies that you see in yourself because someone else has those things and you don't. And that's embarrassing and vulnerable to admit, and it's vulnerable to admit that you're insecure about yourself in any way. But really, I think the solution to the comparison and the jealousy and all of that is to focus on yourself. And when you say that, it sounds so much simpler than it is to actually put that into practice. I think number one, you have to be gentle with yourself when you do feel jealous and not beat yourself up over it. And if you're the type of person who you find that you've been kind of like bashing other women in your head, hopefully not out loud, because listen, it's not wrong to not like somebody. It's not wrong to think in your head about like, oh, I don't like this person because this, and this, but it is wrong to gossip about it, and it is wrong to say bad things about another person. And so there is moral value in how you deal with this. But anyway, I think don't beat yourself up for feeling that way, because sometimes it just happens. It's human. We don't always feel secure in ourselves all the time, and there's so many things that can impact how we feel about ourselves. You know, like maybe you had a really long day at work, maybe you just got passed up for something or broken up with, maybe you failed a test that you wanted to do well on, maybe you just didn't sleep a lot last night, so you're like extra susceptible to being triggered or activated in some way. You just have to let yourself be a person and feel person feelings and just be an imperfect person. But beyond that, I think it's important to work on how you feel about yourself and work on building your self-esteem, so that what other people do doesn't matter to you. What other people do that's completely independent of you. Like this girl who's posting something, she doesn't even know who I am. She didn't do anything wrong by posting a photo where she looks hot and she's serving and she is a queen, and to be honest, she's amazing. But knowing those things doesn't mean that you suddenly just stop comparing yourself to someone. So I think the solution really is just focus so much on watering your own grass that like you don't even stop to notice if someone else's is greener. And I didn't come up with that quote, but it applies to this situation. And I think just building yourself up, and it's not about being like, oh, I'm so hot, oh, I'm so beautiful. It's not about believing that you're beautiful all the time. It's about valuing yourself enough to know that how you look at any given moment doesn't change the type of person you are, and doesn't change how you deserve to be treated, doesn't change anything about you. And So I feel like that's something that I've definitely tried to work on, because I've honestly been feeling really pretty confident lately. And some things that, like, when I feel my most stable, it's because I feel good about the values that I have as a person and how I live by those values, and the things I do that give meaning to my life, you know? Like, maybe it's feeding the animals or taking care of animals, or it's going for runs and trying to get better at running, or it's like reading a lot of books and I feel so proud of myself because I finished a book, or like something like that. Like things that build you up that have nothing to do with another person. I do think jealousy and insecurity can sometimes manifest as being overly critical of someone, and I think it's important to, like, every time, maybe not every time, but like when you don't like someone, sometimes it's for a valid reason, like, oh, they're not nice, or they don't tip when they go out, or like stuff like that. But I think if you dig a little deeper, sometimes you will find that the true reason you don't like someone is because some part of you is jealous. And if you're jealous, that means there's work to do in here. And we all have to do it. It's just part of life. But I do think it's really important to look at those feelings, especially when you're a woman, because women have to lift each other up. We need to support each other. Not all the time. In general, we have to support each other and lift each other up and not see each other as competition, because that just brings us all down. So that's what I have to say on this topic today. I hope you enjoyed it or resonated with it in some way, and that it's helpful to you in some way. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.